So the certificate of recognition says Day of Remembrance of the Armenian Genocide, whereas on April 24th, 1915, the Turkish government perpetrated against the Armenian people what is commonly referred to as the first genocide of the 20th century, which continued until 1923, resulting in the death of 1.5 million Armenian men, women, and children. And whereas, since memories fade with time, it is appropriate to remind ourselves that human tragedies take place. And whereas those who survived the Armenian Genocide and their successors have had to work hard to make this atrocity known to the world, battling cover-ups, misinformation, and denial. And whereas, as a community, we should stand together and join our Armenian brothers and sisters in an effort to memorialize their fallen ancestors and to ensure that this horrible act is not repeated. And whereas, as we remember the past, it is important that we dedicate ourselves to rebuilding a greater future as a testament to mankind's indomitable spirit. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Sierra Madre celebrates the Armenian spirit and hereby pays tribute to and recognizes those who have suffered as a result of the Armenian Genocide. Approved this 22nd day of April, 2014. Sierra Madre City Council Mayor Nancy Walsh, Mayor Pro Tem John Harabedian, Council members John Capocha, Josh Moran, and Chris Kerber. So I will present this to both Raffi and Shoghig and members of the ANC, and then Raffi and Shoghig can come up and say a few words.
The Honorable Mayor Nancy Walsh and the members of the City Council, and to my fellow citizens in the great city of Sierra Madre. Today not only marks the 99th anniversary of a tragedy which has, through the efforts of an unrepentant perpetrator, been relegated to the shadows of historical obscurity, but today also serves as a reminder of the work that lies ahead for not only the Armenian American community, but for all those who firmly believe in the fundamental tenets of freedom, democracy, and human rights. We gather here this evening to remember the victims of one of the worst tragedies of the 20th century, the Armenian Genocide, wherein the indigenous Christian Armenian population of Asia Minor and the Armenian Plateau were systematically removed and slaughtered by the Ottoman Turkish government. Under the guise of the First World War, the Turkish government carried out its national-driven policy of ethnic cleansing. Over 1.5 million Armenians were slaughtered at the hands of the Ottoman Empire. Intellectuals, political officials, religious and community leaders were all rounded up for execution on the eve of April 24th, 1915, followed by families, elders, mothers, and children who were forced through death marches and deportation to go hungry and without water through the Syrian desert, only to be left to perish. This crime against humanity, which until today the Turkish government refuses to take responsibility for, would serve as the blueprint for other subsequent tragedies, including the Holocaust, Cambodia's killing fields, and Rwanda. Adolf Hitler, in planning the annihilation of the Jews, explicitly said, and I quote, "Who, after all, today speaks of the annihilation of the Armenians?" End quote. Unfortunately, this cycle of genocide denial continues today. Today, the Armenian nation needs you to find the courage of your predecessors and speak truth to power once again. As we comfortably sit within the four walls of this chamber, the successors to the Ottoman Empire, the Turkish government, continues its denialist campaign to ensure that the Armenian nation suffers. The current government of Turkey continues to oppress its citizens and makes it a crime for anyone who insults the Turkish nation under Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code. The current Turkish government continues to suppress freedom of speech, as government officials recently outright banned social media outlets such as YouTube and Twitter. And as you have surely already been made aware through the mainstream and social media, in the last month, the village of Kassab, located in Syria and inhabited by an indigenous Christian Armenian population for over 8 centuries, came under siege by Al-Qaeda-linked rebels, aided and abetted by the Turkish government. The people of Kassab were forced to flee, abandoning their homes, businesses, and even family members to the plight of rebels who pillaged their homes, desecrated churches, and murdered innocent civilians. We ask that you do not allow history to repeat itself. Speak truth to power. Take action today. Use your authority that the public has vested in you to let everyone know that we stand with the oppressed and helpless. Honor those who we have lost by protecting the living and ensuring that when we say never again, that there is meaning behind those words. This great country has held a long tradition of assisting those victims of the genocide. In 1915, thousands of American missionaries and humanitarians helped save what was left of a once proud and prosperous nation through such efforts as the Near East Relief, an organization that mobilized Americans and rescued hundreds and thousands of orphans and survivors of the Armenian Genocide. For 15 years, between 1915 and 1930, the Near East Relief facilitated and fundraised over $117 million for the orphans and victims of the Armenian Genocide, which in today's dollars translates into $2.8 billion. Citizens in our very own backyard assisted with these efforts. For example, in the city of Pasadena, Dr. and Reverend Eguy Talbot, a Pasadena local, was the regional director for the Near East Relief and an executive for the Southern California Ecumenical Council, and he led efforts to spread awareness of the genocide to people back home. Local Boy Scout and Pasadena resident John B. Doyle led efforts in organizing a clothing drive where over 37 million pounds of clothes were shipped to orphaned Armenian children. Right down the street at Pasadena High School, students raised over $1,000 to send to the orphans in Armenia. And Reverend Robert Freeman of the Presbyterian Church of Pasadena visited with the Armenian orphans to greet them during his many trips overseas. These are just a few of the thousands of historical narratives and faces of those U.S. citizens who raised awareness for this relevant issue. In hindsight, the Armenian Genocide has sparked the modern humanitarian movement and the original concept of citizen philanthropy. Today, through the work and the actions of this collective body and the social consciousness of this great city of Sierra Madre, we are further continuing this great country's tradition and ensuring that never again really means never again. Let's do our part, take responsibility, and educate, motivate, and activate our citizens. Because genocide anywhere is considered genocide everywhere. Thank you.